What is going on? Alrighty, so when we're talking about the geography of the United States, it's really important that we kind of understand these three geographical regions. So the first region that we're going to be looking at is the New England region. All right, so Great Britain, they're going to have colonies established in North America, and this is called the New England colonies. So what states are those made up of? So we can see it's made up of states of Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Connecticut, and New Hampshire. All right, so it's important that we understand the geography because the geography has a tremendous impact on these colonies. All right, so let's talk about the geography. It's cooler climate, right? When we're talking about the New England, the northeastern time, especially during the late fall, early winter, it gets very, very cold. So, because it gets so cold so quickly, we see that many of these colonies have shorter growing seasons. So, they're not able to grow their crops for as long as a period of time as, let's say, the South, for instance, where it's warmer year round. We also have ports. These are kind of places on the coastline where we can see ships go in and out of relatively easily. So, we're going to see a lot of trade occurring here in the New England colonies. All right, and there's rocky soil. So again, not the most fertile soil, so you can't really grow many crops because guess what? When there's a bunch of rocks and really bumpy land, it's very, very hard to plant things, specifically things like corn, etc. So we're going to see them not really relying too much on agriculture here in these New England colonies. All right, so what does their economy focus on? So how did people make their money in these colonies, right? It was focused around the ocean. You want to star that, highlight that. Whenever we're talking about the New England colonies, they focus around the ocean, right? They have those ports. They're going to use them to their advantage. So we're going to see industries starting to boom, like fishing. All right, so you're going to see cities like Boston, right? Still one of the leading fishing centers of the country. All right, so they're going to use the ocean to their advantage. They're also going to need shipbuilding, right? You're going to need a ship to go out and fish. So we're really going to need to see advancements in terms of shipbuilding. All right, so that's kind of what the New England colonies. So if you were to summarize the New England colonies, short growing season, do not focus too much on agriculture. They focus on trade and fishing. All right, next is the middle colonies. All right, so if you're looking at a map of the United States, these are kind of the central of those 13 colonies. So we're talking about states like New York, Pennsylvania, New Jersey, and Delaware. So yes, us in New York, we were considered a middle colony back in the early 1700s. All right, so that man on the top right, that's Willie Penn. He is the founder of Pennsylvania. He looks a lot like the man on the Quaker Oats box, doesn't he? Right? He was a Quaker, so it does make sense. All right, so let's talk about the geography. So how did the land impact the people living in these New England colonies? All right, so it's a little bit different than the New England colonies. It was very flat land, all right, whereas we saw in New England, it was very rocky and uneven. Fertile soil. So you're going to see we're going to be able to grow crops, right? If you're driving in your car going, to Newark or wherever we're going, you can see there's a lot of farming fields occurring because guess what? There is fertile soil here in New York. There's also heavy forested areas, right? We're talking about places like the Adirondacks, right? Those are very forested areas. So we're going to see them using the lumber to build things like ships, houses, and other buildings. All right, so they're going to use that to their advantage. Just like New England, it gets very, very cold, right? Especially here in New York, right? There's a lot of snow, so we don't have as long as a growing season either. Right? But we also have port cities. Like we're talking about places like New York City, Philadelphia, right? They're located along the coastline. So again, we're going to see a lot of ships going in and out of these cities. So again, going to be bringing a lot of money to New York and Pennsylvania. So how did people make their money in these middle colonies? All right, so we're going to see they're a very agricultural based economy, right? They're going to focus on things like grains. So they're also known as the breadbasket colonies. All right, so you're going to see things that make bread, wheat, rye, etc. Your kind of cereal grains, as I like to call them as well. All right, so we're going to see a good mixture of agricultural and industrial in terms of the middle colonies here. All right, so we're going to continue on with the middle colonies. All right, so the demographics. So what were the people like that lived in the middle colonies? All right, so we're going to see this is the most diverse region of the country. All right, many religions, because we're going to see most of the people that come over here, they're going to move to cities like New York City and Philadelphia. So they are the most diverse, which means that they have the most different people from different parts of the world are going to be living in these colonies. All right, so labor systems. So what did people do for jobs? All right, so just like all colonies, slavery existed in the middle colonies. Yes, slavery existed in the North. When people think about this, they think, oh, it only lasted in the South. Not true. All right, slavery did exist in the North. It ended a lot sooner than it did in the South because we're going to see the North's economy later down the road is going to become more industrial. So there's not really a need for slave labor later on. All right, so these slaves, they worked on farms, cities, and ports. All right, so whatever way they could, they worked. An important term that we need to know is indentured servants. These are individuals whose passage to America was paid for by someone else. All right, so you work from anywhere from 5 to 7 years to pay back your kind of ticket to come to America. All right, so it kind of was like slavery, but it wasn't. Alrighty, so moving on to the southern colonies. So these are states like Maryland, Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, Georgia. All right, so let's look at their geography. So when we think of these southern colonies, right, it is very hot and humid in these states, especially during the summertime. Like, it's unbearable. If you've ever been down to the south during the summertime, you know how bad it is. It's hard to breathe. They have a longer growing season, right? Because it is warmer for most of the year, right? They don't really experience winter like the New England and the middle colonies. So again, you're able to grow crops for a longer period of time. Very fertile soil. It's important that we know that. It's perfectly suited for agriculture, these southern colonies, and very flat land. All right, so what's their economy? Agricultural base. Star that, highlight that, know that. The southern colonies depended on agriculture. All right, we're going to see things like plantations pop up, right? So these are basically giant farms. We're going to see these are places where slaves are going to work. All right, and what are they growing on these plantations? They're producing things that we call cash crops. It's important that we understand this term. Cash crops, those are crops that you grow to make money. All right, so the most popular cash crops in the early 1700s were tobacco, rice, indigo, and especially cotton. Those are going to be your kind of main staple crops. So if you look at the image on the slide there, we can kind of see where exactly those crops were being grown. So we can kind of see Virginia, North Carolina, South Carolina, all of those crops being grown there. All right, so here are some possible Regents questions that you could see on geography. All right, so it's important to know, like when you're taking your Regents exam come June, you got to know that these colonies, most of them were established on waterways, all right, rivers, harbors, canals, etc. That's going to be a big part of the geography questions on your Regents exam. If we look at that first question there, which geographic feature most directly influenced the location along the settlements in North America? Again, they're established along rivers. We talked about like the Jamestown colony, right? They chose that because it was located right along the riverside. All right, if we look at that second question there, right? Vast timber resources, rocky soil, rich ocean, single family farms. Those are all things that we find in the New England colonies, guys, and we just talked about that in the video. All right, and then looking at the image on the right there, all right, just understanding, looking at those images, that's going to be a big part of the Regents exam come June, is looking at these maps, these stimulus-based questions, and being able to decipher information from those. So those are just a few possible questions that you may see on geography. So you got to really know those. All right, so a quick recap, right? So we got to know slavery existed in all 13 colonies, not just the South. It's important that we understand that. You got to know the characteristics of the New England colonies, right? Just know that there's a short growing season and their economy is focused around the ocean, right? Fishing, shipbuilding. Middle colonies, they're the most diverse, which means they had the most different group of people living there, all from different parts of Europe. Agricultural based, right? They're known as the breadbasket colonies. And then the southern colonies, we just got to know they are agricultural based. They had slave labor working on plantations. They had indentured servants. All right. And what are they growing on those? Cash crops. All right. And the most popular one that we talked about was tobacco. Alrighty, everyone. Well, thank you for watching the video on geography, and I wanted to wish you all good luck on your Regents exam come June. Have a great day. Bye-bye.